Well, should we just do whatever we can without a quorum, because we don't know? who's
Yeah,
gonna
Well,
come?
mine's easy. Mine doesn't really, but just, if you wanna support what we're trying to do with VELCO as we negotiate.
Yeah, totally. I think there's some things we can do on this agenda, and then maybe we'll just be done early.
Yeah.
Around a quorum. Would someone take minutes?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you, Melissa.
Should I keep it as a regular meeting or just like side note agenda meeting or just,
No, we can keep it as a regular
Okay,
meeting, we'll just
okay,
know if we don't
sure.
have a quorum.
Okay.
That's fine.
okay,
So we can't approve last month's minutes and any changes to the agenda, I'm assuming not. Sam, do you have anything to say? Public comment?
Sam's early. Oh, yeah.
Sam, if you have anything to say for the agenda?
I am all good. Thank you.
Okay, so just looking through the agenda, so ACFC website page, Brad, do we need to vote on that, or was that just an update?
Yeah, I just basically fed in what we had done,
Okay,
what
great,
we wanted, so it's the same
okay,
essentially. I mean, design wise, flow.
and does anyone remember, did we vote, I don't think we need to vote on that,
I think we
everyone was in
decided not
agreement.
to, right?
So I think that,
Just do it.
just do it, and, if there's any questions you have, you could bring them to the next meeting, but I
Yeah.
think I think every committee member was really in favor of all the.
That's what it sounded like.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, and you've said, and it bears repeating, you've done a great job, but so has Duncan.
Duncan,
Yeah.
Duncan's great.
that's very helpful,
He is. He really is.
yeah. Great. And then vision, mission, that is one of the things that we had to vote on.
Yeah.
I wonder, Brad, we might pause on that, and if Chase and Cecilia do.
Oh,
we
yeah.
could
That's
think
big
about
enough.
on that.
Absolutely.
Um,
That can wait, yeah.
wildlife management plan. I don't know if there's any updates on that. Brad, did you all meet since the last meeting on the sort of wildlife stewardship? plan?
I don't think so,
Okay,
but I took another whack at it and I filled in the outline.
yeah,
And he kind of got away from me. It's like 25 or something pages. So what I'm seeing, I mean, it's all good.
yeah,
It's all brilliant. But it's too much for them, you know, with the appendices.
Right.
For the management plan.
Yeah.
Which itself would be nice if it's 20 pages.
yeah,
Which may not be, but even the current one would be half the length of the current management.
yeah,
You know, it's nuts. So I think what I did was I took a stab at doing a quick little summary. Of mainly just kind of the executive summary
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
up front. And then said it's in the appendix to the management plan,
yeah,
and then it's there. And it, but even there, it's sort of condensed up at the front and the details are back. Because it gets into the various natural communities.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But anyway, I've sent it to those guys and hopefully we'll get a meeting.
okay.
Those guys being Sam and Chase.
Yeah. Good, thanks for doing that. Ray, you wanna? talk a little bit
Sure.
about VELCO?
Yep. So last Tuesday at 10, 3 folks from VELCO and Brad and I met at the forest. And I sent an email to the chairs and to Josh of the overview. Last year, VELCO, with our consent, had surveyed a road right of way, which is T-shaped. So it goes from Route 2 up to the power lines. It goes to the west and then it goes to the east. And the right of way that they are proposing is 25 feet wide. And the center line is the utility road that has been improved by them in this T shape that I noted. And I shared with them that my only concern is the 25 feet down near Route 2 encroaches on very important parking that we need. And they agreed that they would put something in the deed when we get to the point where there's a deed recording the easement that says the parking has precedent over the vehicular traffic that they might need on the utility. And that seemed to work for me,
Yeah,
so that we're not squeezed out of spaces.
yeah,
Then we drove up in two separate cars, trucks, and we looked at the concrete waste blocks that are in the ravine on the west side. And they were unyielding in they had no desire to remove the waste blocks,
yeah.
but they had a desire to help mitigate safety issues.
Yeah.
So we agreed that they would install 2 rows of split rail fencing. One right at and above the ravine. And then one up higher where it connects to the old vast trail. And then they would install danger signs. And that seems to be,
That's like, it's really sufficient.
that seems good.
Yeah.
They also said they would provide the town of Richmond with an insurance binder. I can email this to you,
Okay,
and you can install this email into the minutes if you want.
sure,
I'll do that.
okay,
All right.
because that's all in here.
Yeah,
That's all in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Cease typing.
They will provide us through Hickok and Boardman an insurance binder listing the town as additionally insured for matters within the town forest that relate to the utility. Then we talked about the old vast trail to the west that goes north of their specific 250-foot easement right of way, and they need it. They need it for their ATVs, their contractors' ATVs. They don't generally use it for heavy equipment because they've built these great roads, but
Right.
they are unwilling to say they don't need it. And when I looked at the deeds or the easements, when the Andrews family originally granted the easements to VELCO and Green Mountain Power, they can go anywhere on the property they want.
Wow.
Outside of the right of way.
Yeah, outside, they can do whatever they want to get from a public highway to do the good work that they do. And so they're not violating anything within their original easement.
So-
Today, I think it would be different,
yeah,
but that's when they were installing, it was 1925, I think. They were installing those poles with horses and
Yeah.
early bulldozers. And they can go anywhere they want.
Okay.
And I shared with them that their contractors last fall had really clobbered a wetland
Mhm.
that was on Maplewood. It was right over the border. And they didn't say a word. They didn't apologize. They just looked at my photos and we went on to the next topic.
They have consulted their lawyers to a T, haven't
Right,
they?
they didn't
know
say,
how to
right,
Not respond.
yeah.
Don't say anything.
Don't say, no, and they were very nice people. They're really great.
Yeah.
And then, and we talked about, having Maplewind Farm. If this is something Bruce and Beth want, something I certainly would like, that their access to their back meadows go up through this utility road.
yeah,
And they would release the 20-foot right of way up through the old farm road.
Mhm.
And the utility company was fine with that. They just need a letter of notification. Yep. And then we talked about the old farm road to the east that the VELCO still uses, goes across an old stone culvert up where Maplewind access is, and that stone culvert is washed out. I think it's okay now, or yesterday it was okay. I don't know what it's like today. And I said, can we work together on a new culvert there? And they didn't really want to answer that, but I think we could work with them.
Mhm.
I forgot something. On the old vast trail, I said, can we get a grant from you to have VYCC, pay VYCC to continue to manage and the water bars in the old western, Vast Trail.
Mhm.
They said no, and I said, well, what about you increase the amount you're gonna pay us by $2,500? From 8 to 10.5, and they go, that's fine.
Just less paperwork.
Yeah,
That's kind of the motivation.
Yeah, they don't, that's fine, and if you guys push back and said it really should be 15 grand instead of 10.5, if that's what the select board said, I'm sure they would be fine with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, a little bit here and a little bit there, that was. We kind of have a deal, if that's the pleasure of the committee and ultimately the pleasure of the select board.
Yeah. What is the length of that western section of Bass Trail? That would be need to be recapped.
So it's the uphill section from the power line.
Yeah.
It was done 3 or 4 years ago. It's probably 5 or 6 water bars. 4 or 5 water bars, and it's, I don't know, 1,200 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, just the uphill part?
Yeah, just the uphill.
I've been on it, yeah.
It's just, it's not tons of water, but it's
Yeah.
gooey.
Yeah,
And so when you run an ATV through it, you just bust the water bars.
yeah,
It's sort of like the old farm road. It's fine with water bars in it, but then someone drives a farm truck up it,
yeah.
and all that good work is for naught. So,
You know those green tubes they had around?
yeah,
To stop erosion down towards
yeah,
the old bridge or the new bridge. Those would those work as water bars
yeah, it'd be great. Put them on top of the water bars.
or on top? Yeah. Oh, or I was thinking in place of.
Yeah, there's like sand socks, they're green sand socks with probably some seed in them, so they self-seed.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
I think
They're
they're
kind
heavy.
of ugly and,
Yeah,
you know, aesthetically disruptive. But
they really
were
were.
functional.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you were talking about a handful of water bars, it's probably a project we could do as, or
Yep.
get some volunteers to do. I mean, I built 20 million water bars.
Right.
So, and then there's lots of ways, you know, you can use stone, you can embed stone
Yeah,
in the water bar and you cover it, and basically that adds a lot of, resistance to the squishing when something
Right.
goes over it.
but it's interesting, just because I interrupted, I apologize. When the previous committee, when we approved installing the water bars and they were installed, Tyler was very concerned about the finished product because it was great for water bars in a vehicle road. It's not good for mountain biking. He thought it was terrible because it's, so maybe that we consult with different parties when we go to improve the water bars, because,
these green ones wouldn't be fun at that,
no, they'd be airborne.
smacked into.
Right, so there's different,
Yeah,
which I hadn't taken into consideration.
I don't know anyone who bikes back.
Well, we can't right now because Mike Kelly has posted it.
Right, so it may be just a non-issue.
Right.
In terms of
Might be,
just
yeah.
build whatever burly water bar you want to put in there.
Right.
Well, that's great.
And so, a good meeting, and at some point we should approve, if it's the pleasure of the committee, this negotiation, so that it can then go to the select board. And they also sent us a couple of easements. And the draft that they sent us is very similar to the executed easements with other towns.
Yeah,
So there was,
and do you know that if they will participate in maintaining that road?
they talked about that. They won't on a regular basis maintain it, but if they are using it, they will maintain it.
Okay.
And we pushed them on that a little bit, and then said, we have a highway department, So
The main road.
the main road, so the
Yeah,
the highway department, they've already gone up there once this year and removed a giant poplar tree. So. At the request of Ian. So the highway department, it's within their. It's not in their budget, but they certainly can zip up there with a grader
yeah,
and. Install water bars and grade it and things like that.
great.
Bring gravel in and,
And they have a key to
It's a combination,
Oh, good.
and the road is in really good shape.
It is,
So packed
Hmm.
that it's not washing out.
yeah, and there were multiple bouts of water bars installed in that road.
Right.
It seemed to still be working quite well,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, yeah. So, thank you.
thanks, Ray, really appreciate that. I guess, we will probably need to wait for a quorum to approve. I don't think, but does anyone have any other questions about that or anything that you'd all like to follow up with in the interim?
Well, maybe figure out from this what the motion would be. You know? and
Yeah.
We could reset that through.
Yeah.
Happy to hear they're putting up the fence and the danger sign. I've been thinking of teenagers up there.
Oh, yeah,
Throwing themselves over the.
right, exactly. And I'll try to sit down with Josh, and then he can alert the select board that this might be coming,
Yeah,
and he might have some thoughts.
yeah. That's great. And we'll use the $2,500. Do something good for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So next, well, we want to share my management plan. I don't know if it's worth sharing, so. I can just maybe frame it and we can decide whether we're actually talking about this. So I've gone through the whole management plan. And have. Basically wrote up a thing of like what the previous committee has done in the management plan revision.
Yep.
And then I offered a suite of tasks that I would be happy to do that would either partially or fully provide the management plan. I think it would be up to the whole committee about what is the suite of things that we are choosing to do. I think I have, the wildlife stewardship plan is that, so. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of happy to do any and all, we could choose to do a couple things, no things, all the things. But it was helpful for me at least to go through the whole plan. And kind of figure out how big of a bite you might want to take. If you want to take that bite. I think at a minimum. We'd want to. Continue the things that we've already done, so Cecilia has written the indigenous land use history, land acknowledgement, general integration. Amy and I went through and reformatted the entire management plan, so making sure that we cleared up all the grammatical mistakes. We made sure that the appendix 1 was actually appendix 1 and section 3.3 actually went to section 3.2. It was just a formatting thing. We didn't change any content.
Yeah.
Was that recently or a while back?
That was a while back, it was a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And then there's also a new section. The recreation section was rewritten. And so I think we as a committee could choose whether we want to keep that as is, revise it. Whatever we want to do with that.
I think it needs, I don't think we ever discussed it.
No.
And it's pretty radical changes in there, I see.
I think it would really depend on if we had a trail plan that we agreed on, then that section would have to reflect that plan.
That's
Because
kind of,
right now, that plan sort of reflects the previous, or the airway sinuosity, so if that's not our agreed upon trail plan, then it would make sense to modify it. But we can choose to do it. One of the things that I really love to do is there's management objectives and tasks. They're not nested at all, they're sort of random, so I'd love to make that actual table for each section, and it would have, here's the management goals, here's the associated tasks. We could add other columns like who's the point person on that, what are the resources, is there money that needs to go towards that? Typically in the management plan, you want to have some. A table that you actually have action items out of that you can check off. Right, so if it's, the action item is a yearly monitoring invasives, you know that, right, is point person on that, and you can say, yes, every year I contract with so-and-so and do a survey, and that's, you know, check that box. So that would be less content creation, more just taking those ideas and putting them into a more usable format,
I think that the town plan I mentioned,
even like a format of
I
that.
think so.
Yeah.
It goes through all this prosy stuff. Goals, objectives, action, right?
Yeah,
And you get at the end and all of a sudden there's this chart
yeah.
that's,
It's kind of-
that just forgets all that background to those action. items.
Yeah,
And here are all of the things.
yeah.
Think that's there.
And just a couple of the other things that I see us doing is, you all probably read a lot of like the natural resource descriptions, like ledges and wetlands. And a lot of that information is, it's not specific to the forest, so it's sort of general information, so like there's a section about ledges that just talks about the animals that might be there, or kind of what it is, but that's not really what should be in a management plan, it should be specific to that forest, and we have so many good documents of research that happened there that I think we could pull from UVM studies, from previous studies, and actually rewrite those sections so that it says something about the community forest and not something just really general that, yeah, isn't specific to it. So that I think would take some work.
But all those features are there, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah,
ledges,
yeah, well, it wouldn't be, what we would want, so, for example, like, I just have an example here, it says, this is about ledges actually, and it says, yeah, it says like vertical rock structures, cliffs can be important habitat for species such as nesting pelican, common ravens, small-footed bats. That's great, but we have not done a survey in the forest that says that that's what's there, and I think there might be good information you could draw from other places where, say, we could say, in this study, we found there to be this type of bat or this type of nesting bird.
that, well, I see what you're saying, and then I was at one time going that direction, that's what Andrea's advice is against me. Is getting to the species level, because that day when we were up there, we might not have seen, let's say, falcon. Right?
Yeah,
And the next day, the falcon came back from vacation, you know, moved back into its nest,
totally.
and I doubt there was falcon, there, but, so.
Can I interrupt just for a second? Chase just texted me on an
Oh.
unrelated matter. Which is great, because should I text him and say we have a meeting, or is it too late now?
I just texted, you got a message too,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
he's not joking.
Okay, fine.
So, I mean, I agree, it ought to relate to what's in the forest, but. Andrea and John Hart, and actually a lot of the state stuff says, what you do is you go and you try to preserve. The habitats like the ledges that those critters like, and that's the way it's written. So to make it hospitable for that range of critters, which we know, except maybe for the falcon, they are allowed. Maybe not
Right.
in that particular ledge. Then they have a place to go to, but if you haven't seen them there, it doesn't mean you can just say, well, screw the ledges.
No,
That's
no,
the
that's
idea.
not what I'm.
No, but, so. The idea was, and it's in that Conserving Vermont's Natural Heritage, but they explain it, you go through the natural communities. And then special features, actually like ledges, which aren't a natural community, like northern hardwood forest, oak, top hornbeam. Over 100 of those. Around the state, not there, but, so the idea is preserve the habitats in the natural communities where these plants and animals live, and then you're okay. So to get it down to the species level is tough, because then there's a million
I think
species.
we might be miscommunicating, maybe I can describe it again, so. In the description, it'll say something very general about ledges, which is great, I think ledges are really important, we should have something about ledges. But we also have a lot of research on this forest, and there may be good information about what is exactly there, and I think that that information should be included in those sections. So most management plans, like for example, Burlington at Arms property, that's the property behind that whole high school. There's these amazing rock outcrops. And you could say, these rock outcrops, they're really rich in soil, typically they've had species X, Y, these types of spring ephemerals. The spring ephemerals are these really, unique plants that, some are rare and threatened. But I think so that's great, right, but then the second paragraph, right, is, and in this forest, here's what we found. And you can talk about like the actual features, right, you can talk about species, or you can talk about specific soil types, but you make it specific to your area. If it's not specific, then there's really no meat on the bones of saying something general, because you don't really know what's there, that you're just saying, oh, this is this kind of thing. So I think what we have the opportunity to do is, and this is similar to other sections where we can keep the like general part, but then I think it's important to actually say, and here's what we found in the forest. And that doesn't mean that it's a totally exhaustive, like this is everything we found, but I think that part of our management plan for the community forest relates directly to the plants and animals that are there. And it could be, by saying we've seen, X species of bat there, doesn't mean that's the only thing, or we haven't seen other things, but it's sort of saying, here's some of the data that we're collecting, and I think that we have the opportunities, and a few of these sections that I think lack some of that meat on the bone, to actually kind of build that out with previous studies and kind of say, hey, you can do species lists, or you can even just do anecdotal evidence. But I see that as like a part of the management plan that's a little bit lacking in a few of those sections, and some of the sections actually quite robust. So they have like previous studies, and they talk about the different species they found, or they talk about, maybe the size and type of wetland. Whereas some of them, like with the ledges, like they don't even say like how big are the ledges, or where they're located, or what role do they play in the system. It's just sort of like ledges 101. And I think we can make it like a little bit more detailed.
I know that it reads like that particular example reads like boilerplate.
Yeah.
Just picked up some pieces.
Yeah, and I think we can like add detail to that boilerplate so that someone could read that and really get a feel for this particular forest.
Yeah, as long as we don't imply that that's, like you said, exhaustive. Because
No, we would never.
those studies were all very brief. And, I mean, what Alistair was here 2 days, Alistair Diamond for the VLT, 2 afternoons, I think. Arrowwood said, they wish they had more time, and every researcher's
Yeah.
saying.
And that could be part of the narrative, could be, in the limited studies that we found, but here is what we,
Yeah,
I think that's a valuable part of any management plan, is to sort of say, because that clearly then shows a gap in knowledge, and maybe that's a task, right, is additional surveys or.
well, I have to run that. Maybe I can find that section of that book. I know it's the 3rd chapter in the Natural Heritage book. But the emphasis is not so much on what species you see in a particular time.
Is this for writing a management plan?
Well, no, but for doing the sort of the inventory section of the management plan, why we're managing that part of the forest the way we are. We're not doing it for the particular, there's mink in that brook. We want to protect those mink. No, we're gonna protect everything in that brook by protecting the brook, not the species.
Right, and I think my goal in providing some species data is not about making a specific management decision, but is rather when people read it to get a sense of the uniqueness of this particular piece of forest, not to inform a conservation action. It wouldn't be like, we found this bird, so therefore we're gonna focus only on meadow birds.
That's the only thing.
But it sort of says, hey, this is what this forest, this is what we're finding, and we've had sort of limited surveys, but here's what we know.
That sounds good.
And I think we do have quite a bit of information, especially like you go to iNaturalist, I mean, you could do a really cool bird species list. And you could put that in and you could say, here is the, whatever it is, X number of species that have been noted. That could be a powerful thing, and that doesn't mean it's an exhaustive list, but it's. Yeah, anyway, so there's a bunch of stuff in here, we probably don't need to go through it all, but we can talk about it next time. But there's lots of little things that we could do, and some big things as well.
I don't know what you think about this, because it's great, you've done management plans. What I ran into, I saw myself doing on the stewardship thing when I waded into it. Is set a lot of setup. And I look at that, I think that's maybe good for this gang to look at that setup. Whether that lasts through to the final document.
The setup of,
The setup for all the plans that are coming, because I go into, this natural community pitch, for instance, right? And go through all that, okay, that's great, because everybody around the table may not know all that. And that is sort of the rationale for the action steps that are coming up. But man, there's one way to wading through this. And you read it, and I'm saying, this sounds like not an argument, but an advocacy document. And I noticed that in the management plan, there is a ton of stuff in the front end about the history of the committee, the membership. And we did this then, and then we did this and that. And God, who cares? Maybe that's an appendix too.
Brad.
Well, but if you're turning to this to see how do we manage this forest? What do we do
I don't
about
care.
trails or the critters or education or, VELCO or whatever? Man, I mean, I was flipping through stuff, you go by the diagram of the adaptive management. There's a lot of setup to that. It's really tedious. So I think maybe you could just skip some of that, here's what the forest is like, here's how we're gonna manage it, and talk about those different sections. And you gotta have some rationale, but the committee back, maybe that's the part that I thought, I don't know.
The committee background gets moved to an appendage.
I would, or give it to the historical society.
That's what I was just thinking.
well,
And it's already in MP1, so, historians can find it there.
yeah,
But maybe that could get turned down. I don't know, just keep that in your head. I fell into it because I was, working towards this particular thing, this particular pitch, that zonal thing, right? That's in my head. You do it that way. And seeing this, eventually, hopefully we won't need it. We're gonna get rid of it.
yeah,
Even if that goes through, if it goes through, I think get rid of a lot of the setup and just do it, take 3 pages to talk about it.
yeah,
Just a way to condense,
yeah. There's also maybe an argument to be made for a very useful table of contents that, people can skip through and immediately, there might even be a section that's like, action steps of the committee or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's maybe, I don't know, maybe the tables could go there or something like that, but it could be, here's the current work that's being done, there's like lots of that background information. Yeah, there's lots of ways to do it, there is no one template. Vermont community, what is the name of that organization, Vermont Community. Urban Community and Forestry, they have a really good, town management plan sort of template, and I think that's where this one kind of came from, with the description of the natural features. Which I think lots of people do next to as well, but there's also cool links to Heinsberg Town Forest and a bunch of other ones they've written, and they're all a little bit different, and some are better and some are worse. It's like, you guys choose one to be like, just do it that way.
Right.
Well, Ethan Tapper has written a couple.
Yeah, and Huntington, have you seen Huntington's? It's a storyboard. It's not even it's really cool. It's very, very neat.
Oh, yeah.
So it's got pictures and you scroll through and it more tells the story of the forest, and it's less sort of, what's the word I want to use? It's definitely less wordy, and it's definitely less of just like let's say it. It's more like a story map, and you just scroll through, there's pictures, and it kind of talks about the forest. It gives actually, it's really cool. It's very different.
I live in Fly in Richmond.
Yeah.
I like that though.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's very nice.
Let me go back and look at that. I heard about it, but I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I think Ethan made that one. That's
Who
really
made
good.
it?
I think Ethan made it.
Oh, you did?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He loves that story.
Yeah, very
Wow.
great. You do it on ArcGIS. That's
Tell-
older.
Oh, very good.
Wow, I love it.
Well,
Cool.
the conversation, okay, so I'm just looking at the agenda, hotspots we're not gonna do. Bylaws change we're not gonna do. I think the one thing that we could do is, I'd be curious, just have a conversation about, BioFinder and the maps that Bob had created. And if, I guess my question to you all is, as looking at that, like, just, thoughts on that and. If we were talking a bit about trails last time and trail placement, and we had sort of thrown the idea of like, well, what if we did no trails north of the VELCO line, and I think that these maps that Bob made, which we really appreciate, tell a pretty important story, and so I just was curious what folks think. I think in order to move on making any trail-based decisions based on these maps, we need a forum, but I would be interested to hear what folks think, and we might see like what we all think of that, and. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that, I guess. Have any thoughts?
He lost me.
My thought was that it was a lot to get through. And
Bob's.
Bob's, yeah,
Maps.
Bob's maps. I did look at every single one. It was a lot to get through. And I really wish there was like a summary.
Like
With an,
5 maps.
with an interpretation that was what was missing for
Right.
me, in summary. Like,
Yeah,
I think
A,
he
B,
wants,
C, D.
he wants text to go along with that. So that's designed to be taught. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be a thing,
Well,
standalone.
even a summary, sort of even some summary maps.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I would prefer text. I'm more of a text person, but even like a summary map, I was like, okay, now what did I just see in the first map? I went into like map 20 now. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
And that is a strength of Bob's for doing all that work, but it's a challenge too. Because Bob just digs so deep into
I
everything.
mean, I was actually hoping that maybe that was something we could get here is for some viewpoints or summaries of what do you summarize from
yeah, we can.
all of
we can do that.
those, because I was having a hard time summarizing
So,
all of that for myself. My takeaway from that
Right.
is not.
Brett, do you think you could bring that, since we were on there, do you think you could bring up that map?
yeah, and then
Share it, yeah.
Sure.
Cause I agree with you, Melissa, and I've done a pretty deep dive on BioFinder, and do that, like, my work as well, and. One of the great things about it is you can basically peel apart all the layers, depending on what you're interested in. And there are just a couple ways that you can kind of get the broad overview, but it's not always like the most clear, like which map is, provides that.
You want that particular one?
I do, yeah, I think you're 13.
What figure? Okay,
Yeah, 15. I
and
can,
then you want me to share
yeah,
the
you
link?
can share.
So I have to share screen, okay. Let's disable.
Oh,
Participant sharing.
That is the hard thing, with things like that, like I consider myself a layperson, so for a layperson to have a context, so yes, I can look at that all, it's like
should be the Brad.
reading reading an X-ray or something like that,
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to read.
That's really good feedback, actually.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can look at an X-ray and say, God, something looks wrong there, but.
Yeah. So one of my big takeaways from this is that when they combine all the layers, right? So you have these like wetland layers, you have riparian layers, you have habitat layers. They basically combine them all together and they have a prioritization map that they've created, connectivity layers is another one. And red is high priority, orange is priority. And you can see kind of at the bottom of the sort of top 2/3, there's like a sharp line, that's the VELCO line. Like that's across the property. And so when one of the takeaways for me is when you look at this map that taken in conjunction, the area that we had discussed north of the VELCO line has also been identified by the state as being a high or priority area based on a number of different components. And for our purposes, you know, if we were a trout fishing organization, we maybe would only be care about the riparian. And if we were, you know, a birding organization, maybe we only care about habitat, but that's not our charge, right? We are stewards of the entire forest, so I think that this is a very useful map. Because it does take all of those pieces into consideration and gives you kind of a succinct, you know, snapshot of the area. So we can look, you know, if we absolutely had to say, put a road, a VELCO road through the high priority area, let's say. We could tease apart the different layers and say, okay, how do you tweak it left and right so that it does minimal damage? But that's not really, you know, that's not our charge. So we can look at this and we can say, oh, we actually consider like this whole northern area to be a priority in terms of, you know, maintaining habitat. Yeah, so BioFinder's cool, and there's just like lots of information there, and it can make it a little confusing.
So today I was looking at that. Not, I was looking at that map, but I was looking at all of the maps that Bob put together. That he brought together, I'm like, okay. I'm a person that wants to create, I wanna compromise and figure out how we can do something. Is there a way to get a north-south trail? And you start out with Bob's slideshow, and yep, you can do it. And by the time you get to this, you can't compromise in getting a north-south trail. And that's what this, we should be
Is
doing.
that bad though?
No, it's not bad.
Yeah.
No, it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
just, that's, okay, I've got that fact in my head. We've given the topography and given the high priority forest to the north. If there is a desire to have human connectivity, perhaps it's east-west and not north-south.
Right, so Brad, could you actually go to figure 27?
And oh, can you stay on that just for a second?
Yeah. It's the same one, it just has the trails on it.
All right, okay, well, so Brad, I've been trying to figure this out for a while. How can we compromise? So this winter, we parked here and there was snow on the ground. It was really slushy, so it was sort of spring. And we walked this and then we went up here because that loops around. And then we walked this line all the way, thinking, okay, we'll stay out of here. Let's see if we can find a good neighbor and do a north-south loop where we're pretty much in there and we're not on the hill, it's flat. And it was even hard there.
Yeah.
And I know that's not what we're supposed to identify the wildlife first and the habitat and then, but in the interest of compromise, I was trying to figure out, can we get north-south in the white zone? And even that was hard on the west. So anyway, it's just energy I spent.
Yeah, totally. If we go to 27, it just shows yeah, and right, I've had the same thought, and so I looked at, and I was thinking about the, you know, the trail connectivity piece.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I looked at. And when I ran this weekend along the Bass, which is partly why I wanted to do that, you know, you do see this area to the east.
Yep.
Which connects to BYCC.
Right.
Now, you are on an existing woods road when you do that.
Where are you talking down?
Yeah, do you see that, so I can just. So that, this is just the existing road.
The farm road.
The farm road
Yeah.
here. And then this is the
That's bad.
connection to BYCC, the
Yeah.
west. Yeah,
So down in this part, okay.
yeah, so right here.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting that this area is not prioritized. But also would provide us with a connection, now, and that doesn't mean, I don't know if UICC is allowing bikes, it could just be a pedestrian connection, you know, our charge doesn't say we have to provide. Connectivity for all types of transportation, it just says connectivity, so that could be pedestrian.
Wasn't it a surprise to you that that east part there has low, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, low priority?
Priority,
Like, I don't know, I
It's-
mean, I guess we've been thinking that a lot.
Maybe because isn't that pasture?
Yeah, so the white was previous, is either pasture today, or it was previously pasture
Or-
until say 1940.
and-
So it's more agricultural than wooded.
and so there, and you know, and I saw that. So that just made me think about, okay, so how do you have anything about the compromise, like, how do you have a connectivity piece?
Right.
And actually, the walk, hike, run, whatever, the foot travel from. The parking lot up to VYCC and through VYCC is incredibly pleasant.
Yes,
And there are other ways to go too, you know, you can end up on Snipe Ireland, you can walk many places there that
Right.
have a deep woods feel to them.
When you end up in where they've built the lean-tos,
No, you can,
where, like,
you end up above that,
you end up above
yeah,
that.
and then from there you can keep walking. You stay above the lean-tos and you kind of walk, and you end up down by the
I
farm.
think I've done that once.
Yeah,
so you-
Yeah,
we walked, somebody and I with my Andrews hat on, no, I think I with my Richmond Land Trust easement holder hat on. Walked that from the vast trail at the property line of Andrews and VYCC all the way to the East Monitor Barn. Because there's a trail, an old logging road, and then a trail that sort of slabs down to the East Monitor Barn.
Yep. Yep, and then you can also go, when you're behind these farmers, you can go up their VELCO road,
Right,
which takes you out to that nice view shed.
and that's how we used to do the ski race, I think, like,
Yeah,
when it would come
on the
down.
barn,
for the
right.
whole box, yeah.
Exactly.
yeah,
And I've also just been hearing a lot of the conversation around a paved path in the green. Which I hear not as I really want a paved path in the green, but as we want more accessible. Experiences for people, and so I think about what is the need being expressed in the community, and so I wonder if it's worth. If we were taking a look again at the area to the south of the VELCO line. And saying, could we provide a type of experience like that for folks? Is there a way, and this would probably be a much more expensive trail. But a universal design, which is not ADA, but is much closer to a accessible path than a, you know, whatever your typical.
well, the old farm road sort of does that, though it's wet and bumpy.
Which is where I think when you can put some money into it. you
Right.
can build boardwalk, punch-in, turn hiking, you can do these things that basically make it a more accessible path.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I was like, well, you know, we could see what we could do there and kind of meet some of the needs of the community. So I don't know, those are just my thoughts.
I really like that idea a lot.
Yeah,
You know, that, like, just thinking about, the elementary school, and that they're always
Right.
trying to find places to go.
Yeah,
And I think they're gonna get booted off of Brown's Court pretty soon, so.
I hope not.
They could, that would be a lovely field trip for
Yeah.
the littles, the real littles, and,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if they still do Four Winds there, but, you know, they're
Yeah.
always trying to find places to go do Four Winds.
Right.
They could get to,
Mhm.
it would be nice, probably really nice. I mean, they have children there that would need some more accessible outings too.
I would love to see improved trails below the
I
pound,
mean,
because that's where the bulk of the public.
and older people like the senior center.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
you can't really like walk where there's a ton of roots and rocks and things sticking out.
Yeah.
It's just not safe.
Right. I haven't this spring, but last fall I walked the Urbanic Trail,
Mhm.
which is, it's a great trail. It's kind of steep for
Yeah, I think it's a little steep for,
old birds, but
yeah,
I'm still, as an old bird, able
it's
to.
a nice trail.
Some of us can.
Which is, this is what I'm about to say is outside of the scope, but maybe not. Somebody that we don't know about may have a good association with the Kellys. Mike Kelly of Valley View to remove the no trespassing signs to,
We just put them up, right?
I know. Cause the VELCO infrastructure on Valley View is as extensive as it is. It's kind of washed out, but it's as extensive as it is on Andrew's property.
But that's posted.
It's posted at our boundary line, but the Kellys only own a very narrow strip at the boundary line.
Remember that, yeah.
So I don't know why they posted it.
Parking, I guess people were parking there.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah, I could speak to that a little bit because I live in Valley View. So yeah, it is basically, my understanding is it's mostly a parking concern. It is a private road that the town will not, take care of. And at a time there were a bunch of people parking essentially on the Kelly's driveway. And it was, they were obstructing the way up the driveway, I guess, and it also adds to the wear and tear on the road, which just doesn't come out of town money. We have to spend money every year to repair the road. So I think those are some of the concerns. I don't know the Kellys that well. I could talk to them, but I think that would be one of the concerns is if there's connectivity, where are people parking? Because it outputs either at the Kelly's driveway or down at the cut on Valley View Road Extension, which has no parking either. So there's really no spot for people to park and then go through. So you'd have to be coming on foot, from Valley View, or I guess you could cross the street from Southview or something. So that would be, I think, a bigger question is where are those people coming from, or where are they going if they're using that connectivity?
So in Valley View, you are paying to maintain your own road, is that what you said?
Yes, it's a road association, because for various reasons, it's the town won't take responsibility to plow or repair it. So it's all out of pocket.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Sam. That's helpful.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, I've never really, I'll confess, I've never really understood that geography over there. So I'm looking at a map and I can see it.
well, and it's a public meeting and I probably shouldn't say this, but I've parked on the side of the road. Because I wanted to, at Valley View, because I wanted to walk the VELCO line to Andrews to
Okay.
get a different
Yeah,
perspective,
there's
so.
absolutely no place to park. Yeah.
Right, I mean, I'm just parking on the edge of the road like I would on our road.
Yeah.
Or,
Where's the Kelly's property on that map? I mean, I think I know where it is, but
their house is about
it's
here,
slowly.
and so they own a block like this, and then a very narrow strip along here,
Okay.
and then they own this.
Oh, okay.
It's hourglass shaped.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, so ultimately for connectivity, it would be Mike and Jen Kelly, Ray and Jeannie Deslitz, and Ashley and Josh Hanlon. They all have like a piece of that path basically to get from ACF to Valley View or Jericho Road. So it would probably require coordination from a few different parties. And I know there have been rumblings at other times in the past where other members along that strip were saying they were going to post their land because they, for whatever reasons, I don't really know all of them. But I'm happy to talk to folks if that's something that the committee is interested in pursuing.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very interesting prospect of an east-west connection. That I think maybe once we determine, where trails will be built, that we could kind of look at where that was,
So that's our
but
boundary.
those properties is where
Yeah.
the potential access point could be.
Yep.
Mhm. It's hard, but there's three people.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think my reading of the management plan is not connectivity to all adjoining parcels, but is
Right.
rather some connectivity to.
willing
Yeah,
neighbors.
so.
Yeah.
And VYCC has expressed a willingness for
Yeah.
that connection, so. Yeah. Brett, I'm curious if you have thoughts on that, and you brought up this idea last time, and that was before we had these maps.
Yeah.
Or at least before the whole committee had access to the maps.
As far as connectivity goes,
Or just like,
just in general.
just in general, like, looking at these maps, has this influenced your thinking at all?
Oh, it definitely is, you know, because, I mean, this is just one feature, you know, Bob is, you know, I mean, this isn't really BioFinder telling us this is a database that the state has that he called up on through BioFinder. So
Yeah,
it's sort of like, you know, me using Word to call up a document. I mean, Word is just the way to get at this stuff. And Bob Scott and Ian too have access to other databases. He can get into Airwoods
Mhm.
that they use and put it on, and pull it into BioFinder.
yeah,
It's just the way to display it.
Yeah.
So this is really a BioFinder map.
That, yeah, but it's not, the data is not BioFinders. It's Vermont Conservation Design, maybe somewhere in A&R.
it's A&R, it's A&R.
Yeah. So BioFinder is
Okay,
just
so
the way
it is
to
A&R.
display it.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
BioFinder is just the name.
And you can go in and there's a lot of databases you can look at. The one that pops up first is this Vermont Conservation Zone, is sort of the default, but there are others too that you can find and roam through, and like they, you know, very technical ones would say, like, I think highway stuff's on there.
Yep,
So anyway, but no, I mean, there's a bunch of things. This perspective is highest priority natural communities is, I believe, since he's got this as, I believe. Oops, I'm sorry. What was it? 13, no, 20,
27, I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
There was, yeah. So, yeah, this is, you know, how the forest stacks up. In this whole Mount Mansfield 72,000 acre forest block. Okay, so within that. Certain areas are the highest priority and the others are just plain priority within the block.
I guess the thing that struck me when I was looking at this one too is like, gosh, this is so hard. I mean, not even the northeast part, just those,
Yeah.
just this down here, these lower, that even all that. Like, I said, geez, that's,
Well,
you know, it's hard to keep it out of it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, in a way, it's. Half full, you know, is the glass half empty or is it half full? So if you come at it with, our objective is to put trails in. It's bad news. If the objective is to. You know, conserve biodiversity and wildlife and all that, and great experiences for people on foot. In the midst of all that wonder. It's good news. I mean, that's a resource for the town. You know, we have been extremely focused on everything has to go through the trails lens and be looked at through trails lens, and there are trails up there. And I think we could figure out a way to, you know, keep a few kind of open. The ones that maybe, you know, are skirt some of the sensitive areas by a good distance. And then people can go up there and experience this, you know, these natural communities and everything. So it may not, you can look at it two ways. It's either, yeah, bad news if you just wanna get on a trail and blow off steam or whatever. But if you wanna have that experience of being out in nature for whatever reason, you know. Just to go sit, go look at birds, take pictures, take your class up there, show them things. It's good news, so. That's what I can see, not as necessarily a problem. It's not necessarily a solution, either. It depends what, you know, you're setting up. And it's just one of many of these, as you know, that are in there.
Many what, slides?
Yeah, many of these slides, and they're showing that this is habitat priorities, it's similar. And you can see there's a similarity in the shading.
So I think what you're hearing is, from me, east-west is more viable. So if we're looking to give nature its due space, then east-west is south and then east-west.
I think the compromise we would have to make with the east-west, which I think is a compromise I would be happy to make, is that the way the vast trail goes east does go very close to some sensitive areas, including wetlands, though it's already an established trail.
Right.
So I wouldn't recommend moving the trail, but I would recommend maybe putting some additional measures in to manage water on that trail to make sure
Yes.
there's no runoff into the wetlands.
Yeah.
You know, our charge is to avoid sensitive areas. I think that we just need to compromise on that somehow and say, well, there's already a trail here and here's how we're gonna manage that.
Well, and we're gonna share that, let's say that that's the plan. We're gonna share that east-west corridor with the bulldozers and trucks of the farmer and VELCO,
Right,
who don't have the same may not have the same ethic as the committee does on natural resource
right,
protection.
right.
And VELCO, is this recorded? But
Yes,
Yeah.
is this, you see my cursor moving around there? Is that vast,
where?
this brown? No,
No, that's the boundary line.
That's the boundary, that's vast.
It's not there.
Oh,
It's there on the east.
Oh, you know what I
Because it was a proposed trail on the east, but it wasn't a proposed trail on the west.
and I actually think, Brad, there's a figure that will show that.
Oh, it must,
It's figure 39.
it's
Why
57.
is there a nice big loop in here?
Well, and that's another question,
Why
was
did
like,
that happen?
Yeah,
Well, I think we kept hearing that was a wet area.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
but
What am I
you
doing?
know, but maybe that now that we know, now that we have this information, maybe we say, so yeah, so that's all the trails, so I think the vast going west is on there, and I think it might be. Does it shoot across and then up?
So it's the yellow, well, it's this,
that's those wiggles,
it's this.
Yes, exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the vast trail.
That's the Bastard. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the western Bastard.
but Melissa, you might be, just like looking at this, you might be right in that. There may be the opportunity to make a loop. In that eastern quadrant. That's not prioritized.
Mm,
As opposed to just an out and back. If the, you know, terrain and other conditions warranted
People
that,
sure like loops.
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
It would be a short loop
yeah,
at the
It
end.
would be a short loop, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think also I've, you know, gone back to Meredith Naughton's study, you know, when we talk about sort of spaghetti networks.
Mhm.
As minimum, you know, sort of like looking at the zones of influence and you minimize that, and I do think there's an opportunity below the power line. To have. A greater diversity of trails that meet. Community needs. I think it's sort of terrain oriented, we're not. Lucky enough to have much flat down there, but I think, you know, with the right type of building, you could put in something that was more accessible.
And BYCC has the same topography, same constraints.
Yeah. Yeah.
Up on the top of BYCC, it does level out to some extent, but east of BYCC is a cliff.
Yeah,
Snipe Island cliffs.
yeah, not getting over that.
Hmm.
Great, well,
Cool.
unless anyone else has anything, to say, I think this is helpful to get other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
About this, next time, and, you know, if this informs.
Yeah.
Our, you know, even just saying here, we have these zones, and this is where we're gonna focus trails, and from there, you know, it could be a different design plan, but. Yeah,
Given that we don't have a quorum, should we try to have another meeting in? Should we wait a month for our next meeting, or should we try to have a meeting in a couple weeks?
we could try,
I mean, I'm not dying to, yeah, I am. I think we need to make progress.
yeah,
And we're making progress tonight, but we can't vote on it.
yeah.
Mm.
Why don't I, look at dates, and I can, that's the thing we can do over email, is
Yeah.
date, timing for agendas, so.
Right.
I can do that, and
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Or is it summer?
What's that?
Summertime is always harder.
I know.
yeah,
That's fine.
but all we can do is try.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks y'all for,
Well, thank you.
discussion, and thanks obviously to Bob for all his work to bring this together. As you were saying, right, you know, he's like, Bob did a very extensive job, and I agree. And Bob did so much culling of what's on BioFinder to put these together. It's like, you know, it's really,
And elsewhere,
yeah,
not just by
Right.
phone.
I don't know him well, but I take it this is what he did as part of his previous work. No, this is just him.
No, he's done millions of slides, but he was like provost at UVM.
yeah,
But what's his vocation?
that's cool.
Med school background.
Yeah, he's not an MD, he's a
He's
PhD.
not- I thought he was on call.
Wow.
Bob, are you up?
Impressive.
Oh,
Shows your resume.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all pretty much academic background. I think, so.
you need an MD.
Impressive amount of work.
Oh, man, so I should stop sharing,
oh,
is that right?
Bob just said, he did listen to me, he wasn't able to tonight.
Oh,
Well,
Well, we appreciate you, Bob.
yeah,
Uh,
but keep it, again, just to repeat, this isn't meant to be a standalone. I think there needs to be a narrative where you explain things and explain what this BioFinder thing is.
Well, the nice thing is we did send some links, there's the Vermont Digger article.
Yeah.
And there's a really nice PDF that the Vermont Conservation Design made, which does actually go through. Kind of how they built this whole thing. I watched the webinar.
Yeah.
On it, which was like pretty helpful, but actually the PDF is like quite a bit more helpful, because it's very extensive, and you just kind of breeze through. Right. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna adjourn. Sam, we're gonna wrap things up here. Oh, and Dan, hey Dan. Just saw you on there.
you might want to tell him we didn't have a quorum.
Were we,
Oh, and Bob said, if he's looking, if Brad, you're looking for a specific type of narrative, email him.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have any, is this the agenda?
Oh, yeah, I have the agenda.
Was there were speaking of BioFinder,
Bear with me, I gotta find it.
and I haven't, more closely, so we weren't talking about a meeting, an event about BioFinders?
That is RCC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
That's all in there.
definitely not
Oh,
close. RCC
Okay,
is
great.
looking for that and we have the potential to be a partner in
Yeah.
that, but they will take the lead, and if they will roll for us, we can.
Oh, yeah. I think it'd be great, because I think private owners around the town could benefit from
Yeah.
that kind of overview of the properties. If they have, cool.
Okay, well, everyone online, our non-quorum group is gonna get out of here and enjoy the last bits of sunshine and not rain.
Great.
So thank you all for attending.
All right. Thank you.